Hi, I'm Sug.
And I'm Dan.
This is the Demystified Zone.
A conversation about North Korea, who is watching my every move.
Hey, welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, Jay, Dan.
Hello.
Good to have everyone here again in our DMZ Demystified Studios. We're going to pick up on our last episode about the DMZ itself. Again, in homage to our name and title, the DMZ, the Demystified Zone. We are going to talk about the Demilitarized Zone. I can say demystified. I can't say demilitarized. Such hard words. Why do we have such hard words? Demilitarized Zone.
Yes.
Okay, and I was trying to think of a great analogy for this, and this is the best I could come up with here, Dan, is neighbors. Right? And I was like thinking for a long, like, I have had a lot of neighbors over the years. There's this stat that my wife and I used to throw out that we've moved 9 times in the last like 12 years. It's almost every year.
Yeah.
And we're old adults now, by the way, listeners. I know I sound young and youthful
Compared to me.
but I shouldn't be wandering like this anymore. And no longer are we wandering. However, I did move a lot. And every time I move to a new neighborhood, whether it's in Chicago, burbs, other, I like to get to know my neighbors. That's a big deal for me. I'm not happy. No knock on you suburb guys, because you guys are suburb guys. But I was always a little less happy in the burbs because everyone can be so private and like not around outside. Even if they are outside, they're just
Far away.
standoffish.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you don't like those neighbors who just come up and talk that's me. I come up in your face. I do stuff all the time. I offer to help out, especially if they're old ladies or something. I will always help out. But I like that. I like having like the neighborhood thing. But I was racking my brain to see, have I ever had a bad neighbor experience? And I couldn't think of one.
Really?
I think
that's
maybe
great.
I have been to somebody else, but not,
Like
unintentionally.
how have you been?
No, unintentionally, like too kind. Killing you with my kindness and my...
Weird kind.
Yeah, just like my wantonness. But like, hey, come over to my house when I'm having a barbecue. And they're like, what? Barbecue? What's that? And like food, But have you had any of those like contentious neighbors?
Yeah.
I knew it. I knew you would have it. You're just like, you're a contentious dude.
I take things personally. No, so in the house that we lived in before, our current one, we had these great neighbors. It was an older couple, and so kind. Like, if I would feel pressure to shovel my driveway because I knew he would do it.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Yeah. That was me. I would always shovel my neighbor's driveway. If I was shoveling and I saw theirs.
Yeah.
Because you got a window. You got a window when the snow is soft and light. And it sucks when you stepped on it or your car drove over it. You got to hit it then.
And then it could turn into ice.
Exactly. It's just
then it turns into a diamond.
A slippery slope. Slippery. And then it turns a yellow diamond once the dogs get on it.
Yeah. So anyway, great couple, but they moved. In their stead was these bachelors, like 3 bachelors.
Okay.
Moved in next door, and fine. Yeah, it was. They were nice guys until like the second weekend they were there, when we realized they have a band and they're practicing on late.
Yeah.
So there was that. Yeah.
That'll do it.
That sparked the tensions between our house and theirs.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
In the city, and we've been fortunate. We live in the city a lot. You're into a lot of our friends have had that, where the unruly neighbors who are just unkind and listening. And again, these are not my stories, but we've had friends who their neighbors will, like, out of spite, leave like a horror movie on full blast leave
Yeah.
their house the entire day and just leave it running because they're just annoyed. They're so passive aggressive and they don't want to, which is terrible. And I'm glad I haven't faced that. But and now you don't have the band boys next door anymore, right?
No, we're very spread out now. No.
Point is, be a good neighbor, listener.
Yeah.
Don't be
Like State Farm.
Thank
Like a
you.
good
I was
neighbor.
trying to think about that. I was like, who says that? Is it like McDonald's? Be a good neighbor. I was like, whose tagline is that? State Farm. Right on. Be a good neighbor,
Yeah.
y'all. Please. You don't have to be like me. You don't have to talk to people. Just be a good neighbor. This is my
Consider
only
it.
promo and push today. Because it's so, why?
So with our neighbors, we called the police on them like over the
Did you
course
talk to
of-
them though first?
No.
Oh, see, that's what you got to talk to them first. When you put a face, I feel like once the police routes happen, then you instill like an ongoing war, Cold War.
It was bad. Yeah.
It was a Cold War, right? After
It was a Cold War after that.
See, you
Yeah.
got to have the face to face, which is scary, I know. But if you don't do that face to face, which is why maybe I do go to see people, so they put a
Yeah.
face to me and they know that I'm a nice person or I'm a okay person. I'm not a crazy person. And they'll feel bad maybe for not shoveling my driveway. Anywho, neighbors. Just thinking of neighbors. Obviously, you know where I'm going with this.
Uh-huh.
The long-standing neighbors of North and South Korea, who have been neighbors now for 78 years now.
Yeah.
Neighbors for 78 years, and potentially the worst kind of neighbors up here.
They've
that I
gotten into blows.
I can never
They've
think
dropped
of.
bombs on each
This
other.
is if you think you ever have a bad listener, neighbors, I offer you this. Okay, think about Korea as two neighbors, and hopefully it makes your situation a little bit more tolerable.
Yeah.
At least your neighbor is not threatening to drop nukes on you, literally,
Yeah.
amongst many other things.
Well, they have dropped nuclear waste into the rivers.
That is true.
which is
They've
run down
crapped
into-
nuclear things into their mouths, literally, into their water streams,
Yeah.
but not flown
Yeah, I
and
guess.
dropped the bomb.
Yeah.
This is a different kind of bomb, I
little
guess.
different, yeah.
So today we're going to talk about, in lieu of the demilitarized zone, infractions of the neighborly line that they've created. When the neighbor crosses the line, you know what I'm talking about? When like that tree is overgrown, and we're going to talk about a tree story today too.
Yes.
When that tree just encroaches over, and your neighbor's like, "Yo, get your branch off my yard. That's my property there."
Yep. Big point of contention.
Jay, you got any
between
neighbor
neighbors.
problems over there? What are you living in up there? Condo? Mansion?
No, I'm in a house, but I am for sure the bad neighbor.
Oh.
What?
Yeah,
Jay, come
yeah.
on now. After all
You
this
have
talk?
a band?
No, I don't have a band, but I disregard a lot of village ordinances.
Like?
One, for example, I burn my leaves in the fall.
What are you doing? Why are you burning stuff?
I'm too lazy to put it out on the curb.
What are you talking about, Jay?
Do you
Come
get dirty
on.
looks?
No, so I have a lot of trees in my
You do,
in my property, and I put it in the burn pit, and I use a leaf blower to blow oxygen into it to blow it to make it burn hotter. And I've had the police and fire department called on me by my neighbors multiple times. Yeah, so the police will show up and the fire department will show up, but usually I'm wearing a fire department t-shirt. I work for a local fire department.
Yes.
And it's kind of like hey, your neighbor called.
Sounds
know-
like me. To me, it's an abuse of power, Jay.
I kinda, but
Just because you know fire doesn't mean you get to play with fire, okay, Jay?
that's true. That is, you're right, absolutely. So I've smoked out my neighborhood before by doing it, and the police.
So it's very smoky.
It's very smoky, yeah. And the police get angry. Neighbors think that there's a house on fire.
Oh, I see.
It's actually just me being lazy, and
Jay.
Yeah.
nothing happens. So I just keep doing it, and
Nothing. Wow. You're inciting a lot of, we're going to talk about it today, Jay, and then you're going to see what could potentially happen to
Yes.
okay.
you in
yeah.
the North Korean example here,
Yeah.
okay? Hopefully there's no, North Korean-esque type people in your neighborhood. You might be inciting. Maybe you're the North Korea.
Well, if anybody retaliates, I sure deserve it. So maybe, I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
That doesn't make you North Korea then.
Well, I don't know.
All right. We're going to go through this list. All right, we've got this list. It starts, obviously, if you listen to our other episode about the DMZ, where it came from, a little history there. We're going to start in the 50s because that's when it was originated. You know what, listeners, something I learned as I was researching this was, we talk about like a lot of the missile conflict and the geopolitical conflict, Dan and I here. But this is not new news, Dan. This has been going on forever.
It has these games, these neighborly wars.
It's from the get-go, basically, from the time the neighborhood was established. Yeah. These two have been going back and forth. And I say these two because I know we focus on North Korea and how they always send their missiles out. They're trying to beat their chest. But you know what? South Korea is not innocent here. They've done their own share of neighborhood warfare, if I can call it that.
Yeah, for sure.
And what's interesting is so we're going to go back the decades here. Early on, it was not missile tactics. It was actually ground tactics and very close encounters.
Leaf burning?
Yeah, some might say leaf burning, where, some people just burn things and other people were concerned and nothing was said about it. And the police did nothing. As in, actually, in this case, the U.S. did do some things, but all right, let's go through it. So we got the 1960s. Okay, the 50s is the establishment, obviously, of the line. Things are very hot and heavy, and people are angry from the both north and south sides, and there's a lot of just tension in there. It's a Cold War on another level because I don't know what. Espionage is part of Cold War too, right? Cold War attacks. So sure. I would just say it is Cold War. But there's a lot of things happening. So just read through this list here. There's a couple of highlights here.
You have to figure that immediately after the Korean War, both sides probably thought that this thing was going to resolve itself, right?
Sure.
At the 10-year mark, you would still think, hey, maybe we could work it out. But
or it just, they thought, maybe it was more of like, we got to take things in our own hands.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to solve this thing.
Right.
Where, and you got to remember, the backing parties are in their own Cold War, the USSR and the United States.
Right.
And this is like a microcosm playing out of that, which is really interesting.
It's like a couple doing improv or something, and in the improv is a microcosm of their own fight, right? It's like an exaggerated version of their own fight.
I was waiting for that. Great illustration. Improv.
I just made it up.
Improv comics fighting within their own improv.
Yeah.
It's meta improv.
It's very meta. It is.
So we look at this 1960s. The thing that steps up that stands out to me is it was very in your face back then. Now that missiles are one thing that's in your face too, but it's a little more like passive, right? Like I'm just launching this thing in the air. It's gonna land in the sea, hopefully.
Yeah. Right.
And it's kind of like, oh no, you didn't. Don't hit that button, and then they do. But this is straight up like, tell me what pops out here to you, Dad. Like, what are the most egregious infractions? And then we're looking at a wiki, by the way, of all by decades, the major incidents, and these aren't even all of them, by the way, incidents between South and North Korea.
October 66 to 69, a series of skirmishes along the DMZ results in 75 American and 299 South Korean, 397 North Korean soldiers killed. So there was still fighting.
Yeah, in a ceasefire.
In a ceasefire.
In an armistice treaty, a peace treaty, there's still skirmishes.
Yes.
But these are not schoolyard fights where bullies just get punched or kids get punched. This is like people are
dying, yeah.
They're fighting.
Yeah.
Those are real. I mean, all right, another one.
6 South Korean agents crossed the DMZ and accessed a North Korean guard post. In the process, 20 North Korean soldiers were killed. Wow. And 1 South Korean agent died.
That's
crazy.
That's
why did they do that, I wonder?
That's the Rock right there.
Yeah.
They infiltrated. They infiltrated Alcatraz, and they took people out. One of them died. Not exactly the plot of The Rock, but you get what I'm saying. That's covert action right there.
It's been too long since we've referenced The Rock, so we have to
bring it back in.
we have to bring it back
Or Under Siege. Also applicable in this situation.
Yes.
That's 6 guys. 6 guys. That's a small, tiny group of specialists going in to do some bad things.
Yeah, man.
That was what year again?
67.
67.
And then the big one
Yes.
is 1968.
Yes, and we're going to talk about this.
The Blue House Raid.
The Blue House Raid. Give us a high overload. What was the Blue House Raid? What is the Blue House?
The Blue House is the White House of South Korea. Incidentally, this recent South Korean president moved out of the Blue House because it is so tied to so many corruption-related things.
Is it actually blue?
It's actually blue. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jay, pull up a picture of the Blue House, please.
It's beautiful.
Okay. Well, I guess that makes sense. Name your house Blue. Blue House. After our White House.
Not Blue House Korean.
Jay, what's on your mind right now? You just put in barbecue. Blue House barbecue. Get that out of your mind. We got work to do. There it is. Okay, yeah, it is blue. Wow, it looks very like Asian pagoda
Yes.
style, which that looks cool.
Wonderful.
I love that.
I love this
Look at all the
design.
trees.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right, so Blue House Raid, 1968. Oh, it's called the Invasion.
Yeah.
North Korea sent 31 commandos into Seoul in a failed attempt to assassinate President Park Chung-hee. And then 2 days later, if that was enough, North Korea seized the USS Pueblo, a U.S. warship in Wonsan Harbor. Not a warship, I'm sorry. It was a smaller ship. These North Koreans were very... if you think they're riled up and belligerent now, back then, this is the stuff they were pulling.
Yes. And you could see why there's so much emotions around North Koreans and South Korea. I mean, this is why. Stuff happens between them.
And you look at the dates. We just talked about your thing about the 6 South Korean agents going across. That was in October of 67.
Yeah.
The Blue House invasion is January 17th of 68. So literally 3 months later. However, as we're going to get into this, the Blue House invasion was under works for like a year. The planning of it was for a year. So, Dan, I'm going to walk you through this crazy
please.
operation. And Jay, feel free to chime in with your military knowledge on this operation and just, whatever you have to add. No leaf burning stories, though. Okay, keep it down.
No leaves.
The North Koreans took. Let's see. I'm looking here real quick. Oh, yeah. So they have like a small contingent of special commandos, 31 of them.
Yeah.
And they send them in like covert ops style, crawling through a very specific border section where there was like one section here. If you want the details, you can read the whole article. There's tons of articles on this. There's one section where they knew the U.S. command post was the lightest. So they picked that one crossing. And that night was like a night where they had been observing for like months that they knew there would only be, I think, 2 guards, U.S. guards at the actual border. And they watched them and they just basically figured like this was the best spot to hit. But on top of that, it was very Ocean's 11. They knew that the U.S., there was more happening with the Russia conflict. And the U.S. was pulling troops out regularly. And what was happening is not that they had less bodies, but they had less experienced people in these posts now.
Yeah.
So they would like pull out the top brass and they bring in like the backup, the bench. But then under that too, so that trickled down everywhere where like it would be really green guys now watching the border and they like would fall asleep or like they wouldn't pay attention to certain things. So the North Koreans knew this because they were watching for so long and observing, and they just saw this opportunity happen where like, okay, they just changed everybody out. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
31 of these guys literally just crawled right by a station. They cut through the fence and they crawled on their bellies past the station. in the night.
By the sleeping guard with his feet up.
Exactly. Like that's the picture I'm getting. Like they don't say that explicitly, but that's what happened.
Yeah.
They caught the dude snoozing.
Didn't that happen in Terminator?
It happens in every movie. Every movie, unless they just bust through the gate.
Yeah.
You know?
Uh-huh. Wow.
So these 31 commandos, and they're commandos because these are the guys from the video we watched before, smashing their face through concrete blocks with no regard for their face. Right? These guys are on like suicide mission.
Yeah.
They know it too. They go out they make it out past the border, and they get into like the mountains outside of Seoul. I don't know what that's called. And I forgot to write that down here in the notes. But they basically get out to the mountains. And their goal in all of this is to assassinate the president.
Park Chung-hee.
With the their mission orders were that if we do this, it'll cause, it's like cutting the head off of the snake in their minds.
Yeah.
That all the people who are for North Korea in the South will be able to rise up. And then basically they would, I can't think of words today, but
there'd be a revolution.
Yes,
basically.
a revolution from within if they did this.
Sympathizers. A coup d'etat.
The sympathizers would come forth for North Korea. So these commandos are up there. This is a movie, man. If South Korea hasn't already made a movie on this, I need to write a script on this. Guess what? This is what foils the commandos. They're literally in the mountains, and some random farmers up there see them. It gets better. They see them, and the soldiers confront them. And you think North Korean soldiers against South Korean farmers, they're just going to murder these guys and get moving. They don't. They lecture them. They lecture them on the glories of North Korea, and they think we can convince these guys to join us.
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, and it's not funny, but it's funny to me.
No, it's funny.
It's funny
If you've been to a Korean church, it's funny.
this is what bit North Korea's bottom on this op, is that they were so adamant on brainwashing all their people, and especially their soldiers, at how great their country is. That's what carried through when they got to the other side. They thought they were so superior.
Let me
so
lecture
smart.
you with information.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like getting into a fight online, basically. Like, you're never going to convince the other side, but yet these people are always fighting online.
And they got like called out. It's like they got called out because these farmers saw these commandos clearly dressed for invasion. And then instead of taking them out commando style, they decide to go the diplomatic route and be like, hey, let me tell you about something. let me tell you about my friend. Okay?
Let me send you a link.
It's like, I got good news for you today, friend. Comrade, I've got good news for you today. Okay, you're going to hear it. I've got the new Kim Il-sung gospel check right here for you. Okay, you, my friend, have hit the lottery. Okay, because I'm going to give you a one-way ticket to paradise.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is pretend you didn't see us. That was basically the pitch that they gave him. And of course, these farmers probably like just grateful to be alive.
Awesome.
Get away unharmed, and just threatened. They just they told them, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody you saw us.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can come into the paradise of North Korea. They obviously tell the police, and then all of a sudden there's like in Seoul, it's just like this mad look.
Could you imagine that? Could you imagine that?
So, okay,
Crazy.
Getting to the conclusion here. So the North Korean commandos get into the city, find it very difficult to get to the Blue House because everyone's on high alert now. Oh, I wonder why that happened. And they get stopped at a checkpoint 800 meters from the Blue House, faltering on answers and questions that were suspicious. A firefight blows out, and then everyone runs for the hills at that point.
Well, I wonder what those questions were. You
know what? I always imagine my wife works in stroke and in the medical, and they always ask simple questions like, "Who's the president right now?" And they'll ask like, who. Just to test their cognitive ability if they can recall. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure it was probably I always like to think it's very simple questions where they're like, who is the president of Korea right now? And they're like, they don't want to say his name because they're just so loyal.
Yeah.
And they just blurt out, Kim Il-sung! As they bust out their pistol.
So my wife and I on our honeymoon, we went to Cabo in Mexico, and we went on this little boat ferry thing where the boat driver, we didn't know this at the time, but he only knew like 2 sentences in English. Right?
Okay.
So there was a pelican on our boat, and he made a joke. He's like, "That's Mexican chicken," or something like that. And my wife and I were like, we're totally naive, right? We're like, "Oh, really? That's a chicken?" And he
What?
He thought it was a chicken. We weren't thinking, but that's what he said. We didn't know it was a joke, and then he clearly knew no English to like back his claim up or whatever, or even say that I'm joking. So we're like, "Really? That's chicken?" And he was like, that was his follow-up. He was like, and then he just drove the boat. We didn't talk after that.
You ruined his joke.
The subterfuge was so thin.
You ruined his joke. That joke was his. That's why he landed that. He landed that joke so many times until you guys came along.
Yeah, Mexican chicken. We should have just laughed and okay.
But you interrogated it.
Like, oh, really? Chicken? What species? And that was it. Anyway,
that's what it was like.
That's what it was like.
They showed the North Korean commando a bird and said, "Is this a Korean chicken?" And he went, and pulled out his gun after that.
Exactly.
Jay, have you ever had to interrogate anyone in the military or been interrogated by your military superiors?
No, I haven't.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I was going to ask if you had any good questions. You know, they do that at customs all the time. You ever been stopped?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I haven't had any like really. There's one. The only customs story I have is of a relative of mine. I'm not going to name who. We're traveling back in from Canada, and he has literally what looks like the box from Seven. If you know what I'm talking about. What's in the box? It looks like that box, and there's a pot of tenjang in there.
Oh.
If you know what tenjang is,
fermented soybean
it's
paste.
the stinkiest thing. So it could be a severed head in it, for all you knew, if you didn't know what that smell was.
Yeah.
And this unnamed relative of mine did not. He literally the question was simple at customs. What is that?
And then
I don't know. Like that's the worst thing you say. I don't know. I don't know. What do you mean I don't know? Oh my gosh. Anyway.
Yes, exactly.
That also could have been a reaction from the North Korean commandos. What is this?
Who are you? Run!
It could be like stolen valor. That's a common thing. People pretend to be military and they're actually not.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
To get first class seats on an airplane and whatnot.
Yeah, you have to wear like the uniform and everything.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. Stolen valor.
Yeah, it's
That
illegal
sounds-
now.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Good thing I don't do that.
Anymore.
I didn't say that. I said good thing I don't do that. All right. So this Blue House invasion happens in 1968. A straight up assassination attempt on the president. This is movie stuff. They get caught. The North Koreans end up killing several South Korean police and military on their way out, and then this manhunt happens where they get found finally, and of course, good old North Korea denies.
Yes.
Denies all of this. These weren't ours.
Yeah.
This is early on. They started this whole dialogue of taking the high road and be like, no, this is not me. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
So that's huge. That happens in 1968. Yeah, we get into the 70s, 80s, 90s, more of the same. All right. And just to give listeners some perspective here, this is not just against South Korea. We kind of hinted at this. This is also against the U.S. Like they're attacking and commandeering U.S. ships, planes. They're taking down planes. However, again, I want to be fair here. The U.S. often infringed or made mistakes and crossed over. So North Korea was allowed technically to shoot certain things down or shoot at them because we made mistakes where we encroached where we shouldn't be. However, there are some instances where North Korea, really blurred the line on that. Okay,
Of course.
this is not one of them. This is just a straight infraction. We're getting into the 70s here.
Yes.
All right, set us up, Dan. 1976.
All right. A bunch of people from the South, 2 U.S. officers, I believe, and a group of South Korean soldiers
Yes.
wanted to trim a tree within the demilitarized zone.
Yes, in Panmunjom, which we talked about in
Right.
the last it is the iconic place for the DMZ.
The joint security area.
Yes, which is kind of like a small village size.
Right. So they wanted to trim that down for whatever reason. They called North Korea to get permission, or not permission, but say, hey, we're going to do this. You're not allowed to bring weapons into this area. So they clearly had axes and other things just for pruning. And they did that. And for some reason, tensions escalated. And North Korea basically...
Very specific reasons, actually, if you go into it. But I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah.
Continue.
So,
finish out.
The overview. I'm giving the overview.
The overview, my bad.
Yeah. So they basically massacred these guys. And then the U.S. and South Korea then retaliated by just basically chopping down the tree and daring them to do anything again.
Yes, that's a great synopsis.
Yeah.
It's called the Korean Axe Murder Incident because there was an axe murder.
Yeah.
The U.S., led by First Lieutenant Mark Barrett and Captain Arthur Boniface, went to this joint area to prune this tree that was blocking view from the south to the north of, I think, this North Korean installation. Per their agreements, they were always supposed to announce, I think, when they were going to do something in this joint area. And I think, again, this is speculation, but I'm sure there's more detail on this, that the American and South Korean side went through the right channels, announced that they're coming, went. They're not allowed to bring guns into this area, so they only had like hand axes and pruning equipment, shears maybe. There was a North Korean commander that was kind of infamous for being a rabble rouser, to put it lightly.
A hothead.
A hothead, yeah, there you go.
A hothead Korean guy. Sounds...
Never heard of that before. No way. So this North Korean, it's very, it's sad, but very cinematic too, where basically Captain Boniface tells them, they're approached by 15 North Korean soldiers along with this North Korean commander, Senior Lieutenant Pak Chol.
Who is nicknamed Lieutenant Bulldog.
Lieutenant Bulldog.
Not as good as the Manchurian Tiger. But,
Your WWE name.
Yes.
So Boniface does, he did the thing though. He did the thing that no Korean, he just hit the nuclear button on any Korean. He turned his back on him while he was talking.
Yeah.
That seems so basic and childish for someone to get so irate as to murder people. But just know, people out there, Koreans are very prideful people.
Yeah.
And we're big on our respect. You turn your back on one of them, not this Korean though. I'm okay if you turn your back on me. Maybe not Jay though. He'd be burning leaves. So Jay, if someone turns their back on you while you guys are in an argument, what are you doing? Does that get your blood boil?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever had that before.
What about you, Dan? Does it get your blood boiling? When your wife is like, "No, Dan," and turns her back, mid sentence.
I would get mad for sure. I would get...
Rightly so. A lot of people would.
Yeah.
But anyway, at the worst time, Captain Boniface unfortunately does that. And then here come the axes. The guys come out. They use the axes these guys brought. They picked them because they were pruning the tree and people were like up in the tree while this was happening. This confrontation's happening. So the U.S. guys don't have their whole back. That's why they got ganged up on so easy. Like 15 guys versus like 5 on the ground. And there's axes lying around the ground because they were doing the work. So the Korean guys just pick up these axes and the axe murders begin. Terrible. A lot of the Korean guards, the South Korean guards, get away, but the 2 Americans unfortunately pass away. One, Captain Boniface is like, he dies immediately because he gets bludgeoned to death. But then Lieutenant Barrett escaped, ultimately died from his wounds on the way back in. This is
crazy.
Jay, this is what I'm talking about, the leaf burning, okay, man? You are going to get a contingent of neighbors that approach you, and just don't turn your back on them, please. Don't be like, you know what, fire department's on my back, and turn and wait, because you're going to get some axes up you.
Well, if they do that, then the next time I have to do it, then I'll just bring the whole fire department with me.
Which is a great segue, Jay.
Oh, you're going to call the fire department? I am the fire department.
Well, that is actually what happened. We're mixing sides here. You're the North Koreans in my story, but you're making yourself out to be the South Koreans here. But in the actual story, basically, the U.S., obviously one of their own was brutally murdered. They do this Operation Paul Bunyan. We're not short of our quirky operation names in America. And they come and just cut the whole freaking tree down.
Yeah.
And they do it while in cut-off T-shirts, flexing after a hard workout because they brought the force. 2 30-man security platoons.
Oh, okay.
And then they also like flew a bunch of like routes from their jets from the sea. Had helicopters flying around. 64-man task force of the 1st Special Forces Brigade company with them with clubs. Yeah. Because, we're going to respect the no guns rule. If this is going to be a real fight, we're going to respect the rules, right? We're just going to bring the clubs.
Yeah. Crazy. So they overdid it. Like,
oh, yeah. They flexed
as a
hard.
Show of force, obviously.
Yes.
Not, as a reaction. But they brought the big guns without bringing the guns.
Not that I'm recommending this, Jay, but you could do that. You could bring your guns, which is your fire bros out there. Shout out to fire bros if they're listening.
Yeah.
Get some cut-off T-shirts maybe.
Yeah.
Let the guns loose.
Yeah, definitely.
And then do a huge leaf burning in the middle of the street, though.
I would do a show of force leaf burning.
And then axes. Fireman. It'll be like a sexy fireman calendar, but more serious.
Yes.
Everyone will have like no shirts on, but they're wearing the pants and the suspenders. They're going to hold axes. And we're going to light that.
And then they're going to watch
pile.
me blow the leaves and burn the leaves. Yeah.
And you also will be in no shirt with your leaf blower running around, blowing the leaves up.
Yes. Looking at the wall of neighbors.
Yeah.
This is a great lesson for you, Jay. I appreciate this moment. All right, that's the 70s. Let's keep moving here. We could talk about this all day.
All
people.
day,
There's
man.
so many crazy infractions, but we want to talk about the tunnels.
Yeah.
Tell us about the tunnels, Dan. This is an ongoing one. This is in one decade. This is like ongoing till today.
North Korea is always constantly building tunnels from North Korea into South Korea, and South Korea has found them underground. They're building them basically into Seoul. In the case of war, if war breaks out, there will be easily able to send soldiers in the middle of their metropolitan center to cause chaos.
Yeah, there was some stat. So a lot of these tunnels are hundreds of feet below the ground. They're about 2 meters wide, which is just like a hallway basically. And there was some stat that they estimated if these tunnels were to work, because they land like, again, just for reference, Seoul is not far from the DMZ. Am I right, Dan?
Very close.
Like we're talking about miles.
Yeah.
Not like hundreds of miles.
I think it's like 25 to 50 miles.
Okay, not far at all. Mm-hmm. That they could invade Seoul with like 100,000 troops within an hour through these tunnels, which is insane to me. Yeah. It's also insane how they discovered these tunnels, which is like they were being the not so
was there a farmer down there as well with his cattle? Just underground.
There was a sewage guy working down there. He just like, something's off today. Something's off.
Yeah, exactly.
No, there was a lot of booms basically that soldiers were hearing, and they felt it too. They would like feel these like very distinct tremors, and then after we're talking about 155 miles. So we're talking about 155 miles of land that they can cross from.
Yeah,
and these tunnels are being dug hundreds of feet below the ground, which again points to the resolve and maybe even the craziness of the North Koreans of how far they're will. Can you imagine your neighbor, like who's really irritated with you, spending months digging in their own backyard, so that they can infiltrate your yard?
Yeah, they end up in my crawl space or something.
Yeah, basically that's what they're shooting for.
Yeah,
and not only that, they want to send home over their whole family. Yeah, so they're making this thing like big enough to invade your house, not just do something to it.
Jay's like, why are all these leaves in my crawl space? It's their subtle revenge.
Yeah, or he's like, why are there's like a lot of tremors these days as I burn my leaves. I've noticed my leaf pile is not burning so peacefully anymore.
Crazy.
So they speculate, well, at the largest range, they say there's hundreds of these tunnels, but they found around 20 or 17, I think it was.
Yeah.
So can you imagine finding 17 tunnels on your side of the property line? Like just by poking down and saying, oh my gosh, there's a tunnel here. And one of them was very, the third tunnel is that article I put up there, Jay, is the one that was like the most controversial because, again, another American passed away as they were inspecting it. There were North Koreans down there while they were doing it, and they set off some charges, and it killed one U.S. Army Corps engineer and injured. It actually killed a lot of South Koreans too that were assisting in that op. So this is, tunnels. I'm glad we've left this, but honestly, I feel like North Korea is just waiting for us to forget about the tunnels. Like, I almost feel like the missiles are a head fake to tunnel warfare again, which, by the way, exists now because of this. We have a department called like tunnel warfare.
So, I mean, this is North Korea's strategy as they were working their way up to the nuclear weapons, meaning they knew that without nukes, they were vulnerable, but they were sort of holding a gun to Seoul's head, right? Like, like, well, okay, if you want to fight, then we have some tunnels. You don't know how many. We have all these short range missiles. It's going to be a bloody fight. How worth it is it for you to start something with us?
Yeah.
It's not going to be good.
Yeah.
How worth it is it, right?
Yeah.
And that's how they sort of kept everyone at bay, right? It's kind of like Joker opening his cloak with all the grenades that he's controlling. I
like how you said cloak.
Yeah, he opened his coat, right? There's all these grenades hanging. He's like, don't get too close. I mean, that's exactly what North Korea has done.
It's like the suicide bomber effect.
Right.
Like they will, their bluff, and maybe it's not a bluff, is that like, I have nothing to lose. I'm crazy. I will come over there. I don't care if you have better weapons than I do. I'm crazy. We'll send hundreds of thousands of human bombs over my way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If we go down, we're taking a lot of your guys with us.
Yes.
Basically.
There was, in one of these articles I was reading about the reason why the North Koreans stopped, or what we think they stopped, the tunnel warfare, was because they realized once they got over and saw more of the South Korean side that our ground forces were far more advanced than theirs. Meaning, if it got into a fisticuffs in your face ground battle, the North Korean, even in that one incident with the Blue House, right? They were using like these submachine guns from like World War One. Like they were really antiquated and like they saw that like the South Koreans just had like way more advanced weaponry.
Yeah.
Everything was just more modern and advanced, and that kind of scared them actually. That like that's why they're going into missile defense missiles versus
Right.
this ground game. But to your point, they're still raising up the crazy special forces that are going to smash their faces through bricks and like be impermeable to pain and do whatever it takes, right? Because they have the largest special forces in the world,
Right.
with over, I think, 200,000 it is. Like,
I mean, I think they've gamed it out, right? And they realize that for these politicians, right, if you want to start something, then on your hands will be the blood of hundreds of thousands of lives, perhaps. And yeah, you might beat us, but do that calculus in your head, and is it worth it for you? No one would take that gamble, which is why it's been a stalemate for all these years. It's,
here's the $1 million question, Dan. How do we get our neighbors to stop digging and threatening our yard? How do we do that? How do we become good neighbors after years and years of being content? Is it apple pie at my house? Is it Calvi barbecue inviting you over to my backyard?
Yeah.
Do we do it over the fence? Do we take down a part of our fence and set up half a barbecue? I'm just saying food because I think food brings people together.
Yes,
but
definitely.
we can do it. We can do, we've been bad neighbors too, and we like blast K-pop. We're the band. We're the boy band. We're the boy band. We're blasting K-pop. We're sending our balloons with propaganda.
I mean, North Korea has basically said, "Could you please turn down the music?"
We are in a neighborhood war like no other right now. How do we end this war?
Yeah, that's a great
It's
question.
not what Jay's going to do. It's not Jay's idea. We're not bringing sexy firemen to end this. Okay, that's not going to happen. It's got to be something else. What is it? My vote is food. I think food and K-pop, something fun.
It's a gradual lowering of the temperature for sure, which is cultural things. Cultural thing. Yeah, bring food, but
maybe we need to set up like a concert venue that's
the
half
DMZ.
on the border. We and we share our music. We don't blast at each other. We're sharing it. And then this is like a big food court right in the middle.
With Popeyes and
naengmyeon, all the good things.
all the classics from
in
each
there.
other's side.
Heck, we'll burn leaves together. We'll do it together. Bring all your leaves. We'll bring our leaves. We'll do a huge bonfire. It'll be fun. We'll roast stuff in there and eat it.
Yeah. It's so crazy that this has been simmering and boiling for 70 years, and it's no end in sight.
And yes, unfortunately, to your point, the most recent are like these drones that come out. The North Korea drones being sent over. One just flew within range of the presidential, not the Blue House, but where he lives or something like that.
Yeah, and they shot it down, right?
Yeah, well, they tried to. I don't know. I think they got it. Yes.
I'm pretty sure they got it.
Yeah. So it just keeps advancing. Like now they got drone technology as we knew they would. So now drones are going to come over, not these commandos. They don't have to worry about the farmers giving up their position anymore. They got the drones, It's just, and from even the Chinese balloons that are coming over here, like this is just the neighbor warfare is just continuing to escalate.
Jay, balloons over your neighbors' houses.
Oh, that's a pretty good idea. Yeah.
Don't encourage him.
Drones.
You're encouraging him to be the bad guy now. Okay, he just needs to put his lawn out, or not lawn. What is it? Whatever you do in the suburbs. Leaves.
Yes.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's still escalating. I think 2015. Right. No, there was this one incident where North Korea sent artillery shells over the border.
Yeah, I mean, like per the skirmishes, there's been a lot of misfires. Point is,
people. 2010.
We're same question from our last episode, but a little different. Okay, I asked in the last one, 50 years, where are we? Okay.
Yeah.
And you gave a very pessimistic answer. Where did you say we were? 50 years.
I said
the DMZ.
It's going to be exactly the same.
Exactly the same. Okay. More nuanced question. Okay. 50 years. What progress will we have made in 50 years? There's going to be this ongoing negative. We're going to have more of these articles where infractions are made skirmishes, etc., trees cut down. What's happening? Good stuff. Who else is crossing that line other than Donnie?
Hopefully there will be more engagement, at least. If not politics, culturally, like we've been talking about. Hopefully there will be more business ties between the North and South. I mean, it's like a fool's gamble, because like as we established, the regime gets that cash and they put that towards nuking themselves up, which escalates the tensions even more, right? So it's a very complicated situation, but I hope that slowly there are more exchanges, there are more cultural exchanges, family reunions could continue, travel, some sort of tourism could happen. I don't know, man. I hope that there are more exchanges, but even those exchanges are fraught with problematic exchanges of money that will go to the military. What do you think?
No, I mean, I think the same. It's not going to be this physical line that gets crossed. It's going to be the World Wide Web line, the cyberspace line that crosses first, where we're able to share, and other than them stealing through espionage, IP and other cryptocurrencies, there will be an exchange of cultural things and information, hopefully, that in this world that's very small now of communications, I hope that there are bigger leaps there culturally. I don't know. I can never say for sure, but I do think there are signs of that. So let that be a lesson to you, Jay. Okay? Reach out to the people in your neighborhood.
Email them.
Host a barbecue. Don't burn, please. Burn meat and invite them over.
Don't burn leaves. Burn meat.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to make you a t-shirt.
Oh.
Burn leaves. No, burn meat, not leaves. Hey listeners, if you're enjoying the podcast or becoming more interested in North Korea, or maybe you're just feeling generous right now, please leave us a review and share it with your people. It'll help us to continue to grow this show and spread awareness about North Korean refugees and all that is going on over there. And it'll also help prove to my Amma that my career choices were right.